Welcome to season 3 of the Fresh and Fired Up podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Emily Marshall. And today, sadly, not joined by my co-host, Haley, but she's just got lots of good things going on today. But I do have another amazing guest that I'm going to introduce in just a moment. We are here inspiring each other to excellence in health, fitness, and business. So let's get fired up. All right. So this is Jillian Tedesco. I hope I said your last name right.
You did.
Yes. Okay. Perfect. I love that. She is the founder and CEO of Fit Flavors, which we are going to hear the whole story. And so she is such a good resource for healthy eating and fitness. She's a certified chef from Le Cordon Bleu and known for her community. And she's just like such an amazing person. I got to meet her in person briefly, but I'm excited to get to know you more today. I think that you're an inspiration in nutrition, in faith, in just doing the hard work and like owning it, right? And so I know you have a book, I believe, or a couple books. Tough Love.
Just one.
Okay, just one. You have one book. Okay. I believe that is it called Tough Love or Owning the Weight?
No, it's called Owning the Weight. My blog was Tough Love with Jillian.
Okay. So Owning the Weight, and you also have a podcast, correct?
Yes, I do. It's also called Owning the Weight. I kept it simple. Yep.
Owning the Weight. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Okay. I want to hear more about the story of Owning the Weight, but welcome and thank you for being here.
Of course.
Thank you for being here
today. Yeah.
Awesome. So can you tell us a little bit more about your background, your journey? Let's just dive into some of the details about you because you are a pretty amazing woman.
Thanks. Okay. So I turned 40 this year. So that is it's been full circle. Just looking back, it's been, 22 years since I started in my industry of health and fitness. I didn't graduate college. I started off on the route of going into wanting to be a personal trainer, realized I didn't need college for that. So just started training, opened a training studio when I was 22. It was kind of like my first stab at business and did that for a couple of years and then had a falling out with my business partner. And that was kind of the turning point of my life. It's in my book, my whole story. It's kind of was like my downward fall. I was 25 when I walked out of my own business that day. I kind of like quit. And about a month later, ended up in the hospital with a panic attack. I didn't know I was having a panic attack, thought I was actually dying. But it was just my body and my mind living in fear and anxiety and freak out mode because I didn't know what the heck I was doing with my life. And that's when I really got dialed into my faith. And that's when I found Jesus. That's when I found out what it was like to have a relationship with God. And that really was the turning point in my life. And so that was in 2009. And so since then, I've been seeking God and I'm very committed to my faith. And faith is such a big part of my journey in business. After I got up on my feet again, I started following my passion, which was always nutrition, believe it or not. I had this passion for understanding food and weight loss with my clients and really helping them make the lifestyle change in their life. But what I'd been training for 10 years at that point when I started Fit Flavors. And it was the same thing I heard from everybody. I don't have the time or I don't have the know-how to cook. And so I thought, well, might as well go back to school. I don't have any kids right now. So that's when I decided to go back to culinary school, actually get a formal education because I never went to college. And started Fit Flavors just really out of my house, like a personal chef business, really just to help my clients and didn't have any plans to start a business. Isn't that funny? That's not what most people think. They always have like, I'm going to start a business. That was not my plan. My plan was like, I just want to cook food and help people. And it's helping me not feel so depressed. And I got really good at it, really enjoyed it. And every week just kept growing it until I got to the point, it took me about 4 years of running this personal chef business till I was like, okay, I think I'm ready to open a brick and mortar. And then that's when we opened our first brick and mortar. It was 2013. And since then, we've got 6 brick and mortars now in St. Louis. We have an e-commerce site where we deliver, in the metropolitan area and a little bit outside of St. Louis, like to Kansas City and all of Missouri. And so it's just been, put my head down and go the last couple years. And I finally came up for air, really in the last two, as I started hiring some help to really come in and help me. And now here I am 40. I've got two boys. One is 9 and one is 10. I'm very busy right now with kid stuff. And then also, how do I take my business to the next level? So that's currently where I'm at.
Wow. Okay. So I resonate so much with what you're saying in your journey. Like, I love that yeah, you're so open about even the point of where you felt that crash point, right? I
Yeah.
have 4 kids, and I had a similar experience after my fourth baby, postpartum, where
Mm.
totally wound up in the hospital in a panic attack, like downward spiral.
Oh,
I know
yeah.
what you mean. That feeling of like, no, I feel like I'm dying, and there's so
Yes.
much fear and there's so much turmoil, and you're like, what is happening? What is going on next? And I love that you really like found Jesus, leaned into your faith. Same here. I'm a Christian. And it's like, it makes such a huge difference in life. It really is like the grounding point for all the other good work you want to do in the world, right?
It really takes the focus off you and puts it back on him. My identity is in Christ. It's not in, being a CEO or even being a mother. Those are just like my responsibilities and the things I get to foster, nurture, and care for while I'm here. But uh, learning that has really let go of the control, the ego, a lot of that, because it's all a gift from him, and I get to steward it for him, like manage it while I'm here. And it can be taken away at any time, so I can't connect my identity to it. So that's why I realize, like Christ is my cornerstone. And so getting to that point mentally has helped me be able to sustain a lot of like what people would think are stressors in life, because I have so much peace and grounding from him. And that's really been my fuel and my energy. And so I spend a lot of time in my own personal discipline and practice. Like right before I was on this podcast, my mentor came over. She's my Bible mentor. I'm on like discipleship mentorship with her. And so just doing that every other week with her keeps me grounded on top of what I do on my own. And it's such a key part for stamina.
Yeah. Well, it's amazing. Like, I don't know if you experience this as well, but I have people who ask me like, I don't know how you do all what you do, because it's like,
Hmm.
okay, you have 4 kids, you run a
Yeah.
clinic and businesses and all these things. Well, first of all, being on the same page as my husband makes a huge difference, both faith wise and like work ethic wise, and all of that makes a huge difference. But I had some clients of mine actually ask me the other day, like, what do you do when you feel like you just need to constantly verbalize all the stuff that you're going through, and it might get wearing on other people, right? Whether it's your spouse, your business partner, a sibling, a friend,
Mm.
right? And I said to her, I was like, I used to spend years of feeling like I always have to phone a friend if like this crap's hitting the fan and blah blah blah, right? And it almost got to the point where I was like, I feel like I wouldn't consider myself a complainer, but I feel like I have the need to dump on someone all these stresses that I'm going through throughout certain time periods in my life. And it's really not fair to that person. It's very needy to do that. And so I said to them, I'm like, I have learned to just bring those things to God in prayer first, and
Mm.
the
That's
more
good.
just talk to him like it's like, you know what, I'm feeling really stressed today. Okay, Lord, I am feel like there's this going on. And I will literally like lay out the amount of stuff going on in my life to him. And I learned this concept of, nothing is wasted, because I used to get really stressed about wasting time, wasting energy, wasting resources, wasting money. Those are huge stressors, right? Especially as an entrepreneur. And I was like, everything given to God, when everything's given to God, nothing's wasted.
Mm.
And so continually giving it back to him. And I'm just kind of summarizing this because I'm hearing you say yourself doing that. And
Hmm.
I said to my friend, I'm like, yeah, I feel like I need to learn to be more open about that with people, because I can easily slip into that ego, which you're saying, we're like, well, I don't know, I can just handle all this stuff. Well, no, it's really just because I'm leaning into relying on God to help me through the day to day. And it sounds like that's what you're doing too.
Yeah, and I mean, I could definitely say, like, I think of it more too as like valleys, like the day to day. Obviously, there's the daily stresses, but I'm talking like I can remember, like, obviously, the panic attack is a rock
Yes.
bottom valley, and you got to climb
Like a
up out of
huge
that.
valley. Yeah, that makes
Yeah,
sense.
And then like just ones with business where like I've been in there for 3 years.
Oh yeah.
Financial fear, fear of losing my home, my health, just because of the stress of the day to day, the worry of I'm never going to figure this out. The business is here and I'm mentally here. The financials are
Mm,
here. How do I make the business successful and then get it to where it's growing? So, like, living in that fear and that mindset can just destroy a human soul and spirit. And so, that is the day to day walk that I had with Christ and just giving it to Him and like relying on that it would come out the other side. And so I had one of my friends once tell me, like, if you could imagine Jesus with a wheelbarrow and like he's saying, put all your stuff in here and I'll just push it for you right behind you. And I was like, I love that, because he says, take my yoke. Mine is lighter than yours. I'll carry yours. And so sometimes I'm like, I'm giving you this or I'm giving you that. And just the thought of actually giving it to him is like, okay, it's in your hands. I trust you. And having faith, um, and knowing what the way God would want you to act or live out the next steps and taking that next step and trusting him. And that's how I've kind of been able to like get myself out of the like mental warfare with
yeah.
failure and fear and all of that.
Yeah, that makes so much sense. It really does. That's really helpful. Thank you. So I feel like let's dive into a little bit more because you've already shared. Okay, that was a lot that you shared. A lot.
I tried to give you the quick synopsis so whoever's listening can have my quick background. They're probably, who is this girl? Yeah.
I love it. I love it. With Fit Flavors, then, okay, the fact that you just were like, okay, you just started cooking
Hmm.
and it was a small thing and then it's turned into what it is now. How much of that was just taking sequential action steps forward? Like, or did
Mm.
you hit a point where you're like, okay, I need to come up with a bigger picture game plan or, a
Yes.
bigger vision, that sort of
Yeah. Yes, when it started to become multi-location, multi-million dollar, that's when like risk started becoming a lot more of a risk. Signing personal guarantees became more of a risk.
thing?
Hiring a position that cost a lot of money is an investment in the future. I used to be in a position where I would hire. I'm sorry, I would grow then hire. I am now in a position where I hire to grow. I love
Mm.
that.
Yes,
I
that's
wasn't there
great.
for many years, and when you make that first hire to grow, it is such a stretch. I'm talking where you don't pay yourself because you want to pay that person because you know what they can bring to your business. So like the little like now just like I'm so pumped right now we're looking to hire our first manufacturing engineer. I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm gonna have an engineer working in our kitchen. Like that just gets me so excited. Like this person's gonna come in and they're gonna help with throughput and managing process and procedure and HACCP. Like that's so cool that we're there now. Would I have thought I'd been there 5 years ago? I mean, it just seems so far out there. So just a lot of new things coming down the pipeline. Yes, we're doing more planning and strategizing than I ever have. Probably in the like, I would say the last 2 to 3 years, I started to strategize differently. I realized, okay, I don't know what to do. Like, so I brought in someone to mentor me. I hired a business consultant. I hired an HR consultant. So to help in like those avenues where I needed professional, what do you want to say, well, one, accountability, but also guidance, and then taking it and making it my own and implementing it, and then bringing on team members. That's really been just a big differentiator for us. So it's like getting to the point where I was like, okay, I need the right type of team to take the business to the next level. So I just currently went through with Fit Flavors a whole completely like changeover of our leadership team in the last year. So everybody who was here is no longer here, except one girl, and then everybody here that's running the company is new, and that took about a year, and that is not an easy process. It's not for the soft people because I mean it will pull on some heartstrings. It's hard because you're talking about people's livelihoods, but you're also talking about the growth of the company and also everybody that works there and providing opportunity and growth for the continued growth for everyone there. And you can't keep people in roles that they can't execute on. And so I just currently went through all of that. That was something big we had to strategize through. And
Yeah,
so
that's
it,
hard.
that is very hard. And I am a more emotional person. I am my heart sometimes before my head, which is something I've had to learn that isn't always the best thing for me in business. But working through that personally and just taking the next step, knowing it's the right step, even though it just crushes you. That's been one of the challenging things I've had to go through recently.
Yeah, that makes so much sense. I feel like just hearing you use the word strategize, right? And strategize with a team. Okay,
Yeah.
how do you what advice do you have for if you're experiencing overwhelm in
Hmm.
strategizing? I know sometimes strategizing, planning, organizing, all of that, it can I really think a lot for a lot of us, our brains search for certainty,
Hmm.
and there's really not certainty, right? There's kind of like the step of faith, there's the take action, there's the you have to make a decision. So what
Hmm.
are some of your strategies? I guess
I,
strategies
I,
for strategizing.
I mean, like even when you think about strategy, it's just a plan. And what you do is you start with like the end goal. Here's what we want, and then we work ourselves backwards. So like if here's what I want, how do I break this into like company objectives? Maybe there are three big things we want. So like we had three big company goals this last year, and it was one to become more profitable, two to professionally and personally develop the employees within the organization. It's because I want to bring them with us as we grow. And I realized nobody's going to do it besides the company. So we got to make this like a goal. And then, sorry, I just drew a blank on my second one. That was number three. Number one, become more
So
profitable, professionally develop employees, and I'm drawing a blank right now. But hold on, let
that's
me tell you the
okay.
rest of it. It's going to come to me in 1 second. I don't know why I'm drawing a blank. You then break it down to the people and the departments. So each individual goal is like, how can we become more profitable as the kitchen? How can we become more profitable as the sales team? And so from there, you can put in place goals for individual team members, like your chef versus your prepper versus your manager versus your sales associate. And you could set goals for them. Then you could set mini goals and break it down into milestones. And that's kind of how you work backwards from like the big goal. Now, obviously, you want to have this all documented, but so like that's not my strength. So I brought somebody in to help organize and facilitate a lot of this, someone who's very operationally strong. And that's when I realized, hey, this is a gap we have in the business. This is something that we definitely need. And once you bring that person in to do that, it becomes a lot easier. So it was like first being able to regurgitate, hey, this is where we want to go, but then to get it on paper and then implement it throughout the business by like a lot of things too. It's like you got to be able to communicate this to the staff over and over and over and over again. So in one-on-ones with teams, in weekly huddles, in monthly meetings, in quarterly town halls, like you're just regurgitating all those things over and over and over again. And so like it doesn't happen overnight. I would say I've been working on company objectives for the past 5 years, and it hasn't looked how it looks this current last year. It's just gotten better every year because every year we're like, oh, let's do this differently. Let's do this better. And then I'm like, oh, I'm going to bring in a professional. Oh, I'm going to hire someone. And every year you kind of tack on. So there is a sense of overwhelm. I can't tell you how many times over the years I've had to pick up books and just start reading them. Like you can read a 300-page book and you might get 5 tips from it, but like you've read the book, so you get the concept, and then you have to like, how does this correlate to my business? And then try to implement what you've learned. Nobody is going to do that for you. You, the business owner or the founder, have to establish that energy and that forward thinking. You can bring people in, but they're not going to know your vision. So you have to have a vision of where you want to go. And oh, I got the second one. We created sorry, I was
Love
like,
that.
why am I blanking on this? We've been working on this. We created modular training programs for every department. And that doesn't sound like a big fun goal, but like in reality, it's going to help us train employees better. But then also, as we continue to grow, have training to bring people in and just get them trained faster. It's very expensive to hire and train people. So the faster and more efficiently we can do that also helps us in becoming more profitable. So those were the three goals we had. And so like we are meeting, I don't know when this podcast released, but I will be meeting with my team in early November to set the objectives for 2025. And then what we'll do is we'll kind of do all the legwork and the planning and present them to the team probably end of November, January, depending on the type of level that the employee is at. And then we'll just start repeating them over and over and over again. So
That's so good.
Yeah,
So
and you know what else is, sorry, one more thing. We also put it all into like a project management platform that people have access to. So like if you have your objectives in there, you can kind of manage, are they 10% done, 30% done? And then, if you break 5 milestones to your big yearly goal, and this is like something you're trying to get every other month, like are you on point? So those one-on-ones, those weekly meetings you might be having with your manager, they can look at your project board and see, is she moving along? Is she's struggling? And that's also a good indicator as if people are capable of what they're capable of. Like sometimes people are great at service, but they can't manage moving the needle forward. So they just get stuck as the business grows and they can't grow with the business. And so either you nurture them and you give them the resources they need to educate them and they either get on board and they grow, or they don't and the business grows without them. And that is what happened to a lot of my leadership team. It's just they couldn't go to the next level. I've struggled with the next level myself. Like learning how to be a CEO of a bigger business has not been easy. I've had to have a lot of hard heart to hearts with a lot of my core team members and mentors in order for me to change and grow. And I've had to work on a lot of stuff myself. And as a leader of a business, you have to realize what your strengths and weaknesses are. And when you have a weakness, are you getting in the way of your business's own success? Because now it's so much bigger than you are. And you have to either rise to the occasion or get out of the way, you know?
yeah,
So
that's a tough one, but that is a really good point. Like I'm so glad you said that. So can you unpack that a little bit more? Like what did that look like?
mm,
Rising
so
to the occasion.
mm,
Or what
so
is it looking like? Mhm.
okay, so let's just say probably back right before COVID is when I started implementing like company goals and like I would just put on like a presentation every month to my leadership team and talk about the goals and kind of tell people what they were supposed to be doing. And month after month, some things would move along with the people who were capable, and the people who were not capable would never get anything completed by the end of the year. And I didn't do anything about it because I didn't have strong accountability measures, checks, and balances within that year that I was doing. I was more or less presenting, but not holding the accountability. So then as time went on, I started getting frustrated with team members, knowing that they didn't have the capabilities, but I was also holding them back. So bringing someone into the team that could hold them accountable was the big step that I realized I needed help with. So that's the get out of your own way. And I knew that the business, in order to grow, needed these capabilities and these skill sets met in order to go to the next level. And the people that I had, I almost like pumped the brakes on growing because I said, I'm not going to grow with, like, we have the financials to grow, I have the bandwidth to grow, but like the people who are here don't. And so if I don't get this taken care of, we're never going up, so bringing someone in to hold them accountable, give them the resources. Some rose, some did not, and that's kind of when the natural attrition started to happen, kind of made that transition over. We put more accountability structure standards in place within the business, and now it's either rise or someone's coming in, and I hate to, it sounds so like cold hearted sometimes, but like when you're on this growth trajectory and you're wanting to grow, you need to keep the business healthy, and you have certain standards that need to be met with quality, and follow through, and just like your values. I mean, you don't want to have half the team keeping certain values and other half not. There needs to be consistency throughout. Everybody needs to be on the same page. So it's just that right there, like nobody sees that in a business. That's all like behind the kimono, like
Totally.
those are the things that I really had to work on in the last couple years, that I really had to go back into the shit, clean up the mess, go through the hard work before we could come out the other side and say, okay, let's actually set some goals that are going to help us grow. Like modular training, it is going to help us grow, but it's because we don't have good training right now that is all documented. Like that's like, let's do that before we grow, become more profitable, because I don't want to grow a business with a 4% margin. Like we want to grow a business with a 12 or 15% margin. So like those things need to happen before you just keep growing and growing and growing. So it was really taking a step back and saying, I want to clean up what we currently have and get us really healthy before we keep going and hit the gas again. So I think for me, unpacking that really looked like, what skills am I lacking in? And it was holding some of the team accountable and really pushing hard on these standards. So it was bringing in more accountability, more standards, and stronger team members that could push it out through the entire company.
Yeah, accountability. That is huge. That's such a big one. I know
Hmm.
that's when you talked about that. I mean, I'm not doing business on the scale that you're doing business. Like we own a clinic here in our local community, and I mean it's an awesome it's an awesome community. The clinic's doing really well, but we typically have like 5 staff at a time, not the volume that you do. And then my other business that I started that is a jacket company for fit women,
Yes.
it's just in its like beginning phases, right? So right now it's like solopreneuring. And so this is where it's like, oh, leaning into the experience that you're saying in that future foresight. But one thing that we are doing well in our clinic that I would love to do, if we grow, we're not really planning on growing to more clinics, but I'm thinking more if and when I'm able to grow my company Frexy, it keeping that accountability piece that you're talking about throughout the growth process. We use something called an accountability ladder. I
Hmm.
have a full episode on that we use in our clinic, and it works really well. And
That's
it
awesome.
really keeps, yeah, that really keeps the whole team, like it's good team camaraderie. We have an awesome culture that we're really proud of. But I could see how that could get so much harder on a larger scale because, yeah, wow. It's enough
You
on a smaller scale to keep that going. So
Well,
wow,
if
good,
you
good
if
job.
if you're to grow, it's like who is your number two and your number three? Because those two people and their personal standards and their connection to your values and your mission are what's pushing down. So it's like it does start from you, but that middle management is it's all that the entry level people are seeing. They don't get a lot of FaceTime with you or collaboration with you. So it's what's coming from here is what's being fed down. So these
Mm,
people being fully bought in, these people being fully trained, these people being positive, showing grace, all those things that you would want through your business, if they're not executing to your standard and you tolerate it, that's where things never seem to really catch. But when you set the standard and you have the accountability and you guys are on the same page, that's when things flow.
mm. I've heard
Mm.
it said you have 3 options: train, tolerate, or terminate.
Ah, yeah, that's good.
Yeah.
Train,
And so
tolerate, or
when you
terminate. Yeah.
train, tolerate, or terminate, so it sounds like you've shifted your tolerate to train in
Well,
this
so
phase.
yeah, there's also more steps to it. Like, so for example, we have this I guess you could call it like process. It's a graph. It's called a 9 box, and there's 9 boxes. And one of the sides on the box is someone's performance. And then on the bottom going across is their potential. So I would say, hey, Emily's got a lot of potential. Yeah, like she's got, but her performance is, it's just, it's not there. But since she's got a lot of, yeah, so then we would say, but since she's got potential and moderate performance, let's pour into her and help her get her performance up. But if we look at John and we're like, John's performance is good, but his potential is low. He has no room to grow. He's not going to pour into himself. Like he's not moving up. We're not going to waste time with him. He's just going to be a steady Eddie. And if he stays, great, but we're not going to pour into someone who doesn't have high potential or
That makes
moderate
sense.
to high potential. So you start to like 9 box people and you can kind of see these people are our rock stars. These people need to be poured into, and these people are probably the people we are not going to spend a lot of time on. So some of the things, one of the mistakes I used to make in business that my business mentor told me to do is he said, don't spend time on your low performers or your low potential people. They will suck your time. They are not going to turn around. It's those mid-level people that have high potential or really have high performance and their potential is just right there. Is you need to pour into them and give them the resources and pull them up. And you'll if you can get some of those to become a rock star, then you've done it. But he's like,
Mm,
you spend we as people, we naturally do, we spend so much time on these bottom people because we think they need help, but they don't even want to help themselves. So
right.
it's kind of a shift that we started making and looking at like, okay, where do we really want to spend our time? It's these people, these like low hanging fruits.
It's
It's
like that in
interesting.
health and fitness too, right?
Mm, yeah. It's like people like they like say they want to lose weight, but then they don't put
Yep,
any effort or want to change. Yeah. And then there's the people that are trying really, really hard, but they're not doing the right things. So you just have to restructure what they're doing and then they'll get there, you know? Yeah.
totally.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's good stuff. Okay, so I want to circle back around to your profit. Okay, let me try this again.
Profitability.
Thank
Profitability
you.
goal?
Yes, your profitability goal, because I was thinking when you're translating that to your team, like obviously
Yeah.
there's the overall profitability of the business, but then
Hmm.
how do you break that down to the individuals where they're not feeling like, well, yeah, what you want us to just work harder to make you more money or make the
Hmm.
company more money, but
Hmm.
where does that come back around to them as the individual and their
Hmm.
families?
Right. Right. So this year we worked on, I mean, we've always kind of done like a review process. That's another process that we had to build from scratch, is having a mid-year review process, end of year review process, self-evaluation. So there's many steps in the review process. Like, one is you have to self-evaluate yourself, and it's not just check a couple boxes. You have to check the box. If you give yourself a certain rating, you have to tell us why. So it's having people really think about this, because your manager has to think, why are you not? You're just expecting something. So you really self-evaluate yourself. And what happens is it's just, sorry, I just have Invisalign in, and it gives me kind of like a lisp when I talk. My husband's been making fun of me. It's anytime I do public speaking, I'm like, I gotta take these things out. So
It's
I
okay. I
apologize.
couldn't even, I'm not even wearing one and I couldn't say the word profitability. So good job.
Profitability. That one's easy. It's the S's. um, they actually installed something to where my teeth, I can't close them anymore,
Oh,
because I was grinding them so bad. So, little teeth problem update. So, anyways,
oh yeah.
so where I was saying with this, so say the employee gives himself a 2, but the manager gives them a 4, or vice versa. The employee, it's a 1 to 4 scale. The employee gives himself a 4, which is like outstanding, and the manager gives them a 2. There's obviously a disconnect there, and so it's really an opportunity for them to have, like, shed some light. And we don't wait till end of year. Like, that's why we do mid year. It's there's no surprises. We're like, hey, we try to be very upfront with feedback and suggestions and pouring into. So like I said, the development of the employees is so key. So the resources, like, if we give you resources from the mid-year to the end of year and you don't do them and you don't improve by end of year, like, you might not get your merit. Like, just because the business is more profitable and people are getting profitability and moving up, you're not, we realize we can't just keep paying people more because they're here another year. Like, the business is growing, we need you to grow with us, and, unless you're happy staying where you're at. And so another thing we looked at too was, like, we wanted to give people like a view of what their future would look like here. So there's something else we're building right now, is like a pay band structure. So I'd say, hey, Emily, you're coming in as an associate. You're going to start at, let's just say, 17 or $18 an hour. In 4 years, you can, or 5 years, your max that you can make as an associate is, let's say, $22. Like, we're not going to pay a store associate more than that. So you can either stay in this position, here's how you move up, or you move up to a store lead, and then that maxes out at $26 or whatever it is. And so you start to see what your capabilities are. So it's actually incentivizing people to do more proactive things when we give them resources, and it's helping build stronger people within the organization. You're going to find people that are more motivated, that are going to say, okay, well, I want to make more money every year and I want to grow with the business. So I'm going to do all these things. And, like, the list of things are like, be trained, get certified, do our nutrition 101, do our manager training program. Like, all these things are going to develop the employee better. Now it's so much value to the business. It's worth the investment of the pay increase. So we're rolling out pay bands next year. I haven't actually had any experience with it, but we've been working really hard on them, and it's in hopes to let the employees see what their capability is in this role and what the next levels up are and that capability, so they can continue to grow within the organization. But to your question specifically about profitability, these things are only possible if the business is profitable. Like, the business can do, 10 million in sales and, well, like I said, have 4% profitability. That is not a lot of money. So, like, you still have to pay for things with the business. So if you can hit the larger profitability and you can give out those pay bonuses, I'm sorry, pay increases, and then possibly bonuses on top of that, that's only available if the business is profitable. So you they also need to understand that we can only give what we have to give. So letting them understand how they can impact the profitability of the business has been huge. One thing specifically that we put in place this year was labor plans. That really changed our business a lot. We were wasting a lot of labor just due to bad scheduling. Really, it came down to that, and it wasn't maximizing the scheduling, and that that saved the business a lot of money. Just
So would
that
that
one
be
thing.
like you have too many people scheduled at one time or something like
Yeah,
that?
yeah. It's
Yeah.
also too, if you think about it, like we offer like a lot of PTO to our employees. But what was happening, I think this is just common in retail. Like if I'm working Saturday and you're working Sunday, but I'm like, hey, my kid's got a game, will you switch with me? We just switch, and so we switch on the schedule. You got all these people switching, so it's a lot to manage. But not only
Yeah.
that, we're just doing what we want to do. When you have a labor plan, I work every Saturday and you work every Sunday. If I need Saturday off, I need to take PTO. So what happens is it forces me to take my PTO versus me and you switching all year. And then I still have 2 weeks of vacation I can take off and the business pays me out for that. If I'm forced to take PTO, it forces us to stick within the labor plan, which is a projected cost to the business, as well as less PTO we have to pay out later. So it's actually saved. It's still like mind-boggling to me how well this whole new thing worked for us, but it's completely changed the business. And it took us about 6 months to really get everybody flowing through it. But it's been great. Uh, we just really maximize how we're scheduling people at the stores. Correct. And you don't just get to swap. There's set schedules, and so people have a set schedule that they stick to. And it's been great.
Yeah, those are the details, like you said, that don't always get talked about and are kind of behind the
Oh,
scenes in business.
yeah.
That is like a huge deal.
Yeah, we're talking
It really is.
thousands of dollars a month, like just in like having this labor plan in place. So it's like those are the things that we needed to get in order before we continue to grow. Cause it's just like you just compile the mess. I'm sorry, you not compile. Yeah, you compile, um it just gets uh when you times it. What's that word I'm trying to say? Like the mess only gets bigger with growth. Whereas if you can make it small
Yes.
before you grow, it's more manageable.
Yeah,
So
it's like the snowball effect, right? The snowball
thank
that's
you.
rolling down the hill and it
Yeah,
gets
yeah,
bigger and
yeah.
bigger as it
Yeah,
goes.
and I'd been stressing out and I was like, this is not fun for me to want to grow a business that doesn't have tight standards, doesn't have great accountability. Like, and I'm just saying those things. I'm being completely honest here. Like, the business has not been perfect throughout the years, and a lot of it's fallen on me. And so that's when I really had to look and say, Jillian, you are not doing some things well. Like, you need to change these things and really hit the brakes before you continue to think about growth. So it got a little messy and I had to clean it up. And it got a little messy again and I had to clean it up. So uh, yeah, it's just growing pains, I guess.
I feel like sometimes when you're in the weeds, it's like, okay, these are where all the lessons are learned.
Yeah.
And all, well, I guess you're either rising to it or you're not. Kind of like what you said with your employees, right?
Mm. Yeah. I mean, sometimes I felt like I've been stuck in a valley. One time, my longest valley was 3.5 years. It was me. It was me learn like I had a lot of catching up to do personally and professionally. I mean, I was probably say I was a late bloomer, and I didn't give up, but it tore me apart as a human, and a lot of fear and just like insecurity, and I had to keep the face on the outside. I laughed because I spoke at a women's conference one time. You were probably there, and people go, "Oh my
Maybe.
gosh, I love Fit Flavors. You guys are killing it." And I would be like, "Oh, thanks." And I'd be like, "I hate my business. I want to quit." In my head,
Right.
thinking like we're not, and I hate my business. But like people would see the outside. They saw I had 3 locations, and they thought like, "Oh, she's doing so great," but we were losing money every month. Like I one time had to have my husband make my payroll payment. Like I couldn't even make my payroll. And so like that's scary thinking like, okay, that's a lot of money. And are we even going to get that money back? Like, are we even going to be able to keep
Yeah.
our doors open? And so those are the things that you go through and you just want it to be over. And I mean, sometimes I would just be like empty inside, like just
Right.
trying to get through to the next day. So just like start looking at like, is what I'm doing working? Do I need to maybe look at doing something I've never done before? Am I measuring my return on investment? Like just
Yeah.
starting to look at things differently.
Yeah, well, and that's what this is with the process that I'm in right now, going like, okay, where do I want to expand my product line to, and what pieces of the puzzle are going to make sense moving forward. That's why I was digging in a little bit more to what you were saying with strategizing, right?
Mm-hmm.
And the fact that you brought up, I think those are hugely important. The fact that you're talking about bringing on certain team members, or like for myself at this point in my business Frexia, I'm not at the point where I'm like bringing on a full team, but working with people. And I know this business consultant that I've been just working a bit with out of LA, I can do contractually. So it's like, okay, I can pay for this one call and come up with, okay, what's your next plan? Get all this done, then come back to me and we'll do another call. So I have found that's been helpful in this phase. And I'm kind of saying this because there's going to be people listening to this who are closer to your phase, which is
Mhm.
like, okay, next phase growth, big business versus startups, small business. And I think a lot of these lessons are constantly interweaved throughout the whole process. They just end up being
Mhm.
on a different scale.
Totally. I mean, like we're talking about launching. I mean, it's hard to believe I have a meal prep company and I don't already have subscriptions. I had them a long time ago, and then we had them. Sorry, I said I. We had them a long time ago, and then our stuff changed with the platform. We took them down. They're not talking to our back end really easily, so we're having a hard time launching them again. And I'm like, it's like we're a startup with subscriptions right now. Like we're still trying to figure it out, But that's such a big part of meal prep. Like we need to get this shit figured out. Like, what are we doing?
Yeah.
So um,
And is that
there's
kind of like a subset of Fit Flavors, or is that different, your
uh,
subscriptions?
well, you would just be ordering food online and setting it up for a
Oh,
subscription. Another
right.
another another thing we're looking at is like we have associates at every store, but sometimes our stores they get so busy just for like 2 hours of the day, 3 hours of the day, and like it's almost unmanageable for an employee, but it doesn't validate having a second employee there. And so we were really talking
Oh,
about like how can we improve the customer experience, and we were like, let's get a self checkout. Like people would love that. Like especially your
yeah.
antisocial people, they come in, they just want to get their shit and they want to leave. And like or people who you know have been customers forever and they just want to get in and out, or then the associate can work with new customers when they come in. So we're like, now we're looking into like what it would look like to have self checkouts in our at our stores. So that's
Oh,
a whole
that's
new thing that we're going to be like stumbling on for probably 6 to 8, 10 months, getting it
that's
up and
great
running.
though.
Hmm.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah. And so it's that innovation makes
Constantly,
such a big difference.
you have to constantly be innovating. It's one of our core values to pursue innovation and embrace change for growth. And we remind each other of that all the time because we are constantly changing, and we expect our employees to embrace the change. And when they don't, that's when they get stuck and they don't
Mm.
they aren't. I go, look, this is a growing business and this business is ever changing. If you don't like that, this is probably not a place for you. In fact, we even said to our HR girl, we're like, you know what? Let's be a little more honest with these employees when they get hired on, especially the ones that are coming on for higher positions than entry level. We said, why don't we just start telling our employees, like we share our core values in our interview process, but more or less like, hey, we want to know that like you are really good with change because we're constantly changing here, but like our expectation is that you embrace this change because it's constantly going to be rolling on you. If you like someone who likes to always know what they're doing and always have the same thing, this probably is not the place for you. So
Yeah.
we're just trying to be upfront with people because we just want to get a different type of mindset working here, one that is like on the same ship charging forward. And it's
That's
all about your recruiting and your training and your communication and how you breed that. And so we've learned this all the hard way. Like it's not like I knew all this stuff. I've learned all this the hard way, all of it.
such good advice, though. Really, such good advice. So, what about owning the weight? Like, I know, okay, I'm curious. Tell us a little bit more about why you picked that, owning the
Yeah. So
weight.
people are like, is it WEIGHT? I'm like, no, it's WAIT, the wait, the
Weight.
time.
Yeah, weight.
Um, business. You gotta wait it out. You gotta own it too, like every bit of the process. If you don't fully own, and that I think too, like the first business I had, my personal training business that I walked out of, I worked there 3 years with my partner. I didn't own it. Like I didn't own marketing. I didn't own personal growth. I didn't own like getting developed. Like I didn't do those things. And it's why I probably just walked right out because I wasn't connected to the process. I didn't embody it. I didn't own every bit of that business. And so when I say own the weight, like you have to own everything. Everything is on you. And even if you delegate it out, which is fine. Like I've become a really good delegator, but like I own that I needed to outsource. I've owned that I needed to ask for help. Like, and I've waited it out. I waited through that 3.5 year valley. Like I developed through that. I resourced myself. I, cried through that. But like it's part of the process. So like there's that with business, but also I really wrote the book more so about like the whole mission of Fit Flavors, and everything I've done with my work has been around helping people make a lifestyle change. And this really could apply to anything, but like owning the weight of your weight loss journey or your lifestyle change is really how you're going to get to the other side. Because doing the exercise you need to do, changing your habits, making small changes to meal prep, or just have different foods around your house. Like you have to take the ownership in learning what those are. You have to take the ownership to get a little educated. You have to take the ownership to find yourself a new place to work out if you don't like where you're working out now. Like you have to own the process. You can hire people to help you, but you still have to own the process. And once people connect to that, I truly believe you can do anything. Now, I mean, you might not be a doctor or a surgeon or something like that. Does take a certain skill set some people just don't have. But like, um, one thing I'm trying to apply to my life right now is I wanted to be a competitive golfer. I want to become a single digit handicap. 2 years ago, my handicap was in the very high teens. This year, I got my handicap down to like a 12.9. I competed in 5 tournaments this year. I won one. It was like I needed to own the full process of hiring a golf coach, getting a golf trainer, making sure my mindset coach was there, making sure my body was equipped to play golf, scheduling time to get out on the range. Like I had to give up so much shit this year, and it has been such a massive change. But I applied all the principles that are in my book to my golf game. So there's 7 steps in the process, and I talk about these in my book. I call it my 7-step framework to making a lifestyle change, or really making any kind of change that you want. And so I walked through that this year, and it took about a year. I really went hard starting in March, and I kind of just wrapped up my season. I'm going to get ready to plan my winter, November, December, January, February, and then I'm going to be ready to hit the competition season hard next year. Like I'm going to do more competitions. I signed up for districts, which is like almost like a local league for older women. And so that really like got me inspired that if I really want to do anything, I can do it. I just have to apply these principles. And so it's like visualization, um, recognizing false narratives. So the lies that you believe. I mean, why do you believe the things that you believe? They could be not true. Speaking new narratives, like you got to speak good shit over yourself. If you don't speak good stuff to yourself, it's not going to work. You have to make time. So people don't make time. That's the problem is I don't have time. Well, you got to make it. So you got to sacrifice. You got to give other things up. So I talk about how to make time. Did I say visualization?
Not yet.
You have to visualize. Like I remember laying in bed, and when I would lay in bed every night, I would play the course. I would come up to the tee box, I'd push my tee into the ground, I'd take my practice swings, I'd go through my process, I'd hit the ball, I see my ball flight, I'd see where it landed, then I would pick my clubs up, I'd walk to my ball. Like I did this all in my head, and then like
Yeah.
that's how I took the visualization out to the course. um I talk about processing the failures. So like I started saying it's not failure, it's learning. So you're not failing,
It's
you're learning.
feedback.
So like, yeah, it's feedback. And so like once you started looking at like, okay, it's just part of the process. Like you're not going to win, everything's not going to be good. Like, and with weight loss, like you're going to fall off your diet. I hate to say diet, but people think that it's going to be perfect. And that's why I promote the 80-20 lifestyles, because that's the only way to sustain it for the entire life. You're never going to rock 100%. So like I
Yeah.
take the 80-20 philosophy with me everywhere I go in life. And then the last part is trusting the process. So it's like really just saying, okay, I'm going to trust that this framework is going to work for me. I'm going to visualize it. I'm going to speak. And like when I would hear myself speak lies, I'd recognize it. Like one thing I worked with my coach was every time I would get over a putt that was about 4 or 5 feet, I would mentally say to myself, I always make my 4 foot putts. And so it just gave me this confidence. Like when you're in competition, I mean, the ball's like, only that far from the hole. Like you should make it. But a lot of people miss those putts, and those are the putts that win, that help you win, because
Yeah.
you're stressed, you're shaking, your heart rate is going. But like, if you've made so many 4 or 5 foot putts, you go up there with the confidence. You're like, it's a 4 foot putt, like I can make this. But you freak yourself out. And so if I would miss one, she would teach me to say, well, I never missed 2 in a row.
Yeah.
So it's just that, like, and I started speaking this self to myself. The last competition I was in, I was actually playing with this woman who I was cheering her on. And after she made the putt, she goes, "Man, I love you." And I'm like, "Yeah, you got to talk to yourself. You got to talk to that ball." And uh, she took on what I said, and when we finished the round, she goes, "I told myself I was going to make that putt before I did." I go, "See, it works. It's like a mental game." So it's like
Yeah.
I had spend a lot of time mentally training myself. I did that with weight loss. I did that with business. I've done that with my golf game. So I've done that with my fitness. I've even done it with like my home life, my family, and like how I want my home to be managed and the balance of what I have around here. So it's just, that's what my book's about, owning the weight. If it sounds interesting, anybody can pick it up. You can buy it on at www.fit-flavors.com. It's our website. And I also did an Audible. You can get it on like Amazon or whatever, if you
That's
don't want to
great.
read. Yeah, but it's quick. It's like maybe 120 pages. Shares my story in business, but more or less my framework of how I got out of a fucked up mindset, got my shit straight, and like put myself on this path that I could do it. And so I said, how cool would it be if I used my own framework this year and applied it to my golf game? And that's what I did. So
That's
it was
awesome.
fun.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, okay, get Jillian's book, either Audible or hard copy. I love that. Thank you for sharing it and breaking it down, because there is a lot of good stuff packed into that, like all of what you just said.
And
And
a
when you,
lot of that, like I've learned over the years through professional development. And so it's like kind of just putting it together for myself was really what I needed to do, you know? And
yeah,
getting it to where I could see it like that, because it's a process. And it's not like you can just check one thing off and you're going to be done with it. Like it's a work in progress. I'm trying to always do those things, you know?
yeah, totally. It's interesting that you said that, because so I did gymnastics at a high level. I did world level gymnastics. And what you said about visualization is just, I'm just reinforcing this is so true. Like, I had a year in my competition season where I injured myself, but it was leading up to a qualifier for, so you have to do so well at nationals to qualify to compete in the World Cup level. So if you're going to be traveling to for like these international opens or world championships within the year, that sort of thing. And I was devastated because I think I sprained my ankle or something that was like, shoot, this is going to take a little while to heal. If I push it too hard, it's not going to heal in time. So I rested leading up to the competition. I would go to practice, I would stretch, and I would visualize everything, every skill, every routine, all of it.
Wow.
And I would
It's
do the
like you were
positive
still
self-talk.
there.
I would visualize through, yeah, I would visualize through my routine to music over and over again. I try to tell the little
Wow.
gymnasts I coach now this. And I
Yeah.
qualified. I qualified that year. Yeah, I
Wow.
ended up
Wow.
bronze. You had to do like bronze, gold, silver, or bronze. But I was happy with bronze because I was like, dude, I only trained my routine like the week before I competed. The rest was like a month of visualization. Yeah,
Dang.
it's
That
so
is,
much in your head.
I kind of got chills when you were telling me that, because I was just thinking about like, that is like, that's intense. But
It was
if you think about,
intense.
if you think about some of the like elite athletes and stuff, like they're on another level mentally. And like I feel like I like a percentage of a taste of what that is, but like they commit their lives to that. And it's like it's totally doable. We just don't give ourselves enough space to do the
Yeah,
things that we want to do. And that's that for me, out of all those things I said, like making time, it was the biggest challenge, because I have 2 children, the business, all that
yeah,
shit. It's life. But like
yeah,
here you have this personal goal for yourself, and it's like, well shit, I still want to work out. I still want to, go out and do X, Y, and Z, LMNOP, but like where am I going to shave this off and create some consistency? So I just told myself every Wednesday at 4 o'clock I would be at the course. And I did it all summer. I might have missed
wow,
once. And like I was out there. Either I was playing or practicing by myself or with a friend. Like I was committed. And then I would probably put in another practice round or two, just like throughout the week if it would allow. But like there were certain things I just I didn't have like any budge on. And that's how I made it work, was the schedule. And I think people underestimate the schedule when they're trying to lose weight. They don't account for meal prep. They don't account for sleep. They don't
Mm,
account for just extra time that's going to consume them. And that's why they fail. They don't make time.
yeah. Oh,
So
so good. Okay, I feel like, is there anything else you want to add before we end off? I mean, we've
no,
said a lot. So
yeah.
if you didn't get something out of this podcast, maybe you need to check your ego.
I'm Jillian Tedesco on Instagram. That's probably where I'm the most active. Is on Instagram. If you want to ask me anything, you can reach out to me. I'm pretty active. So
For sure. I will also put that in the show notes. So make sure you connect with
cool.
Jillian, get her book, stay connected. We hope you love this episode. Make sure you share it with a friend. And if you haven't clicked the subscribe button yet, now's your chance. And in the meantime, be free, feel fresh, and live on fire.